Thank you so much. Like, I know your time is limited, so I just wanted to. We never officially formally introduced you, and to talk about, like, when you went to Standing Rock. Were you there? How long did you stay?
We were there for 4 days.
For 4 days, and it was a van load full of young people. What age range was it?
They were all my teens in my program. I have a program called the Sacred Keepers Youth Council, and their basic job is to study the intersection of climate and culture. So we've done these trips before. They've gone to Kenya with me to work in Masai land on reforestation and water scarcity issues there. So this narrative is playing out everywhere. We're going to Brazil soon to work with the Achua people who are facing the same issues as Standing Rock. So the issues around the threats to indigenous culture, and how their complete dependence on environment and climate is dictating how their cultures are shifting. Threats to land, threats to air, threats to water. It's different when we're threatened. Flint is threatened with water scarcity, then bottles of water come into that area, and we just create alternatives, because alternatives are purchasable, and we can go do stuff. When it's cold, you go and do. We have mechanisms in place, but when you're talking about indigenous cultures whose complete systems rely totally and utterly on natural resources, when things break bad within that climate, they don't have a target up the street to go get water. So how do we, and then that culture and the traditions of that culture are then forever threatened, and have the ability to completely dismantle those traditions and culture, because now they have to go into different areas to live. They have to let go of their traditions and way of life to survive, which means that's threat to culture. So Maasai culture might only have 50 more years to be a culture that we know it as Maasai warriors and Maasai, way of life. So that's kind of what we do. And so the youth that went with me were my leaders that are really understanding what this meta narrative around climate and culture looks like. And their job is to come back and organize other youth to enter into this dialogue. And how do they take what they know and move this into youth culture as a priority?
Wow. I mean, the thing that I loved about it when I heard about what you were doing, is that it's not just, the grown folks saying we need to do something, but it's empowering the next generation to critically think about what's going on and to be moved into action and to get their peers and rally their peers into action. And honestly, it's, it's going beyond the old, fuddy-duddies and going to the ones that have the most energy to get up and not just walk, but run with the message and run with the solution. And it's just, I can say we commend what you are doing. Thank you so much for being a voice, for bringing awareness, for being bold and brave and being that light and that change that you want to see. You truly embody that. I'm so grateful for you, for your organization, and for your time today to talk to us and to really shine a light on what's going on. Not just, I'm like, when you just said about Brazil, I was like, wait, what? What? I'm like, not just about Standing Rock, but about the everywhere.
It's everywhere, and more importantly than just the youth, we've gotta prepare them for the world we're handing them. This world is very different from the world that we inherited from our parents, and it's going to look even more different as it's looking drastically different just in this last month. So if you think about, Native cultures especially really like to think about, 7 to 10 generations ahead. What world are we handing these these youth. And so my interest was really to get them to the camp so that they can see what true solidarity looks like. What does it look like to be in a self-reliant community that builds, and the only impetus is solidarity and love. And it's so important that we give them active opportunities to bear witness to what they might need to create for themselves as time moves forward, and get out of the oppression Olympics that we're all in. I posted this morning um, that it's breaking my heart a little bit that we don't have more brown people in solidarity with this movement. And some of the people that I talk to that are very active in BLM are like, well, where were the natives when blah, blah, blah. And they want to make this about, semantics and oppression Olympics of who wins the medal of like most oppressed and most traumatized. And I'm like, the opportunity here is, they took this land from these people and then we were brought over here from our continent to work it. And so the opportunity for solidarity is for us to have all justices that were born out of the original stealing of this land to be righted. Because that's all of it broke bad when they came over here and took the land.
Right.
That happened before
settlers of America.
So
yeah.
I just am about like getting this story healed up and being told so that the future generations have the ability to have the truth, because these kids ain't dealing with Columbus Day. They're not dealing with any of it. They're not having it. We kind of took it and we're like, yeah, Columbus Day. We knew something was wrong, but we kind of went with it.
No, they're not having it at all.
Youth of today, they're not having none of it, So
Thank you, though, for the youth.
I think they're not going to have that. What are we going to give them to replace all of it?
Right. Truth.
I just
have truth. Tell them the truth.
And I would love to talk to you at length later on, if you ever have the time, about building self-reliant communities and what we may have to do. I don't think a lot of us are really thinking about truly what type of world we may end up living in the next few years.
Well, get to Standing Rock if you can, because it looks like Standing Rock. It's the most beautifully tragic place I've ever been.
Wow.
And literally, if it wasn't for my responsibilities here and it being really cold and me having, children that I have to nurture in this community, I would be living at Standing Rock, because that's the community that I cherish. Despite the front lines, it is the most beautiful thing you will ever bear witness to.
Wow.
Wow. Well, thank you.
I just have one more quick question. I'm sure you said it, but I missed it. What's the name of your organization?
Sacred Keepers Sustainability Lab, sacredkeepers.org. And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and come to our website.
I had one question for you, because I know when Miss Toni, I like how you said that, Nappy Strong. You was like, Miss Toni. When Miss Toni went down with the youth, it wasn't just them in a van. Like, they piled it till it couldn't be piled anymore, with bottled water, coats, blankets, canned goods. You name it. You name it. Okay.
You name it. That's how I felt. That's exactly how I felt. Right. We were driving down there at that place. The kids had like granola bars tucked behind their heads. It was it was tight, but we got it there.
If people wanted to still, let's say if they cannot physically get to Standing Rock, but they want to stand in solidarity and support by sending something, does your organization have the capabilities to send things?
So we have several supply runs scheduled. We have another supply run scheduled December 7th, I believe. We have another supply run scheduled, I think it's the 28th of December. And then we have another final supply run with people planned for January, but that date hasn't been set yet. So right now the urgency, of course, warmth, 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 warmth. So like hand warmers, gloves, hats, blankets, heaters, portable heaters that are electric powered, any sort of thing that you can think of that requires warmth and no outlet, then that would be beautiful. They're also raising funds for yurts to be built. There are lots of, we made about like 5 of them when we were there over the weekend. And they're building what are called tarpies, which are like these insulated teepees, and these yurts, which are these round insulated structures to keep people as warm as possible for the winter. They're really winterizing and weatherizing as many of the structures as they possibly can right now. So I can send out links to get yurts donated if people want to raise funds for that. But we're collecting, you can imagine that if you're sprayed with 20-degree with water cannons, and I was freezing when I was there, and it was only like 30, 40, and now it's 20 degrees at night, 19 on some nights. Has been a snow already there, and there's no place to dry out. There's no place to put your coat in the dryer. So it's hanging. I've got images where coats are just frozen. And there's no alternative. There's no place to go to get warm. So anything that we can do to help continue to pile up the warmth for them, the better.
Okay.
And firewood, lots of firewood.
Listen, what about propane? Do you guys use propane?
Hour drive, there is no firewood.
Oh.
I don't know if you heard me. What about propane? Do you guys use propane heaters at all, or?
The propane is a huge problem there. Everybody's using propane, but you can imagine that that's kind of an oxymoron.
Yeah, and you're using oil to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I guess the thing to be to direct people to go through the website to figure out where to send, or if they need more information, or they can email to send some stuff out, or to get it to you so that it can.
Yeah, I'll post something on our page, and then if you go to our Facebook page, there's tons of information there as well.
We put this on YouTube. We're definitely going to put all of your information in the description box so people can come visit you, talk to you, follow you, and all of that, because this is the type of information that we as people of color need to talk about, hear about, and spread the word about.
I thank you all so very much for offering this platform and for being sisters who are truth-telling. And I will always have a space and love in my heart for any sisters who are out here organizing us to understand each other better and love each other better. So I thank you all so very much for this platform.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I know, right?